Hey everyone, I'm Scott Stokely, and this video is all about how to teach adaptive disc golf, as well as how to teach, or rather run, an adaptive disc golf class. And I'm going to be using notes for this because there's a lot of information here. I definitely don't want to forget anything. There's a lot of important stuff I'm going to cover. But the reason I'm doing this is because I have taught 287 adaptive disc golf classes all over the world, mostly US, but definitely all over the world. And I've learned that teaching disc golf for people with physical or developmental disabilities is not just rewarding, but it's also really, really fun. So I want to share with you how to do this and encourage you maybe to give it a try. Maybe you'll find something that you love. And I'm going to be joined for a lot of this video by the OLC community home. Some of the residents there have agreed to let me film one of my Blue Power classes, so it's really exciting. Now, if this is something you're interested in, or if something that affects you or your family, you can go to my Blue Power Facebook page. Just search for Blue Power Disc Golf. But even better, go to scottstokely.net/Discord. And on that page is the conversation with everybody about this topic. Just come join in. The more we have, the more we can accomplish. All right, so I've broken this into two categories because they're very much a different approach, and that is developmental disabilities and physical disabilities. And look, I'm going to apologize in advance. I'm making this video today, probably posting it tomorrow. In the next 24 hours, they're probably going to change the name of these things, and I'm going to use words that in 6 months are probably going to be offensive. I'm sorry, I can't keep up. So those are the words I'm going to use. If you're watching this in 3 years, forgive me if I get the verbiage wrong. I'm doing my best. All right, so right off the bat, we're going to start with developmental disabilities. This could be autism, Down syndrome are probably the most common, but it's not limited to that. It's basically anybody that has cognitive slowness. I never know the right term to put it, but it's just something, it's developmental. It's not a physical issue, although it might be an overlap. With players, there's such a wide range. Okay, so we go everything from people who are nonverbal, who need assistance the entire time, to people that are they just see the world a little bit differently, maybe a bit quirky, right? And so your approach is going to have to be completely individualized based on the group that you have. You're going to have to learn to communicate differently based on the individual that you're talking to. Personally, that's kind of fun. You're getting to know someone and then figuring out how to communicate with that person. But that leads to the first rule of teaching this, and that is you can't plan. Okay, there's I've 287 classes all over the world in 287 different cities, and the one thing I've learned is that I don't know anything. Every single town and every single group of people that come out are so different with so many different levels and abilities. I've learned that I simply don't plan. Every single class is a brand new challenge with an open mind. Who are you? Let's get to know each other. Of course, you can talk to the teachers and the drivers and maybe people, but when it comes down to it, I'm going to have to figure out how to communicate with that group, and it's going to be different tomorrow. So basically, you can't make any plans. You also can't have expectations. All right, first off, the class will start exactly when it starts. Think about the Wizard and Lord of the Rings, right? A class starts exactly when it's supposed to start. There are so many obstacles that cause classes to be late, but not only late, classes are going to get canceled at the last minute sometimes. We have no control over this. This is just the reality. If you go to show up to teach someone or a group and you get a phone call 5 minutes before that said, yeah, we had a problem, things got derailed, don't get upset over it. That is part of the challenge of doing this. You don't know what to expect. Next important thing, play disc golf. And that sounds silly, right? Because you're teaching a disc golf class. But I think there's a tendency to want to just bring out a basket and show everybody how to putt, which is perfectly fine if you're teaching a class on disc golf putting. Okay? That's fine. But if you're teaching a class on disc golf, you're disc golfing. Now, it's called adaptive disc golf because you don't need to play the course itself. Right? The whole idea of golf has nothing to do with tee pads, baskets, holes in the ground, distances. The idea of golf is taking an object, starting at point A, progressing that object with one action at a time until you've completed the challenge. If you do that, you're playing golf. So you can play a 40-foot hole. But if you start here, you throw the disc towards the target, you advance to the disc, you pick it up, you throw it to the target, eventually you make it in the target. You've played golf. You've played golf exactly the same way I play golf. You've just adapted the game for that individual and that individual's abilities. So play the game. The way I teach how to actually play the game, and I know there's going to be some video, we can maybe even show it, but I simply show. There's the target and there's the goal. Here's the starting place. Stand here. I throw. The disc lands. I walk up to the disc. I stand there. I pick it up. I throw again. I walk up to the disc and I throw. Showing is a lot easier and a lot more effective than explaining how to play. With only a few exceptions, nearly every person with developmental disabilities I've ever worked with grasps the game of golf. They get what they're trying to do. And if they get what they're trying to do, they can play the game. And of course, there's going to be people who are higher functioning. A lot of the kids with Down syndrome, they pick it up like that. This is just a game to them. There's no problem. But some people will get it a little slower, but almost everybody gets it. So don't think you just have to putt. Right? Go ahead and play the game of golf. The only technique that I teach, and it's a very effective technique, and I very much recommend this. It's called the Scarecrow Technique. And this is what the Scarecrow Technique is. I tell the players to grab the disc in their throwing hand and then stand like a scarecrow. And most people know what a scarecrow is. If they don't, no big deal, explain it to them. But most people get the idea of the scarecrow. And what I tell them is you take the disc, you put it in your throwing hand, you stand like a scarecrow. The disc is going to fly where the arm holding the disc is pointing. So here's how I demonstrate. I start with the basket behind me and I stand like this. And then I say, is this disc going to fly towards the basket? A lot of times I call it frisbee, but either way, is this frisbee going to fly towards the basket? And everybody yells, no, because my arm's pointing that way and the basket's behind me. So then I start turning and I go, how about now? No. How about now? No. Well, tell me when to stop. Stop. Everybody yells stop. Then I throw. Okay, really this is just a way of saying turn 90 degrees from the target, but it's a fun way that translates. Every throw from here on out, including putts, is the Scarecrow Technique. Because if the target's there and the player stands this way, they're either going to throw it that way or they're going to throw it this way with almost no power. So the Scarecrow Technique accomplishes two main things. Number one, if the person does the Scarecrow Technique, every single shot advances towards the target. And if it advances towards the target, it means you're moving towards the accomplishing of that goal. But the second is the only rule that we follow, which is after everybody's thrown their first shot, everybody stands behind the person throwing because the person throwing is the person who is farthest from the target. Same rule we follow. But if you do the Scarecrow Technique and everybody's standing behind, there is a 0% chance that someone gets hit in the head with this disc. This is important. Depending on the individual, a simple clunk in the head can actually just derail the entire afternoon. Something that might seem small to us could be a really big deal to someone else. So just be super careful. Scarecrow Technique alleviates that. We do this until everybody completes the hole. Now, one of the things that I've learned is that everyone gets high fives. Everyone understands what a high five is. That's a good thing. So when you complete the hole, make high fives part of the process. It's just part of the reward mechanism, right? Is that I've done this thing, now I'm getting a high five from my peers. Now, I'll tell you something fascinating to me. So autism is on a spectrum. So there's a wide variety of people with autism, what works for them and what doesn't, what's difficult, what's not. I've had I'm telling you, countless parents and teachers say, yeah, they're not going to like the sound of the chains because they don't like loud noises, startling noises. I am not making this up. Cross my heart. I have yet to work with a single individual that when they hit the chains isn't excited about it. And I've seen players make putts and get excited and watch mom go, they can't believe it. And all I can think is, it's a loud noise, but that loud noise has been connected to high fives and success. And so that loud noise isn't a distracting loud noise, it's actually like a really cool noise, you know? So doing the high fives reinforce how that works. Now, as far as how long the class should be, you don't get to decide, right? I mean, you could start with 30 minutes, 40 minutes. The class decides when they're done. You don't. And once the class decides they're done, I've found that it's very hard to reel them back in. And it's kind of funny because they often work as a group. Once one of them's like, they're kind of over it, then you look over and everybody's no longer engaged. So you don't get to decide. I will tell you this, I've almost never had a class go for an hour. So it's, you know, there is a ceiling on how long people are engaged for. Wait, no, let me take that back. I've worked with kids with Down syndrome that could go all day and they can play all day. But with everyone else, under an hour is realistic. It might only be 15 or 20 minutes. If that's what you get, that's what you get. One of the things I highly recommend doing, and this is not for everyone, but for people who are higher functioning, keep score. Okay, there's this tendency to want to just make everything about participation, and it's certainly important, the participation part when it comes to developmental disabilities. But part of the fun of the game of golf is quantifying success and failure with a score. I don't know, I shouldn't use the word success and failure. When you throw a putt, it hits the ground. That's what that is. When it goes in the chains, it's something else. And most players do understand the idea of score. I've worked with many players who will actually ask me, how many throws was that? And I tell them, and they're excited, or they're disappointed, whatever. But don't automatically rule out keeping score. Lower functioning, sure. But with higher functioning, score is part of why we play the game. It's part of what's fun. Now, why do we want to introduce this game to people with developmental disabilities? Well, the reason is, one, it's for them, because it's an activity that's fun, it gets people outdoors, it's good exercise, it's healthy. It's definitely something that benefits a person's life. But there's actually something way more, not to say way more, that's not the right word. There's something that is equally important to that player's fun, and that is the fun that the family has. Because the thing about disc golf is it's a parallel sport, meaning you play side by side with the individual. You're not playing directly against the person like tennis, for example. Instead, you're playing against the course, which means when you go out and you bring out your son or daughter with autism or Down syndrome or anything, when you go out, you are playing and attacking that course exactly the way you would if you were playing with me. You get to play the game of disc golf 100% aggressively, right next to someone who's playing at a whole different level than you, and you can both enjoy it. So it's not just the person that the class is for, it's about introducing a hobby that the entire family can enjoy, especially siblings, right? Siblings, out of necessity, often, it's just the way it works, often don't get the attention maybe they would get because one of the family members just simply requires more. Just the way it is. Well, this is an activity that siblings can do together and have fun with. So, this is how you teach developmental. Now, physical disabilities. Okay, this is totally different, obviously. So, again, don't make plans, because unless you have something somebody sends you that says, here's each player and their abilities, which has never happened to me, you're going to have to adapt for every person that shows up. So you might have a class full of kids in wheelchairs, but you also might have a mixture of people in wheelchairs and people with spinal cord injuries who have limited mobility. You can work with people who are blind. You can work with, I mean, there's any number of things that could be challenging. And so if you start by not making plans, then you're open to taking on whatever challenge that comes. So what you do is when the person shows up, number one, you figure out what they can do. All right? They are an expert at their own body. They know how high they can lift their arm. They know how much weight they can put on their leg. They know if they can do a run up or if they can only do a standstill or if they can't stand at all. But figure out what they can physically do. Once you know what they can do, you are now the expert. All right? Don't forget, you are an expert at disc golf compared to them if they haven't played. So now you get to just use your head and try to figure out how this is going to work. If a player can't raise their arm up above here, they're not throwing sidearm rollers. I didn't need to tell you that. You could figure that out in 2 seconds. If you can't do this, you can't throw a sidearm roller. But can that player do this? Yes, perfect. They can throw backhands. This is part of the fun of the game. This is my favorite part about teaching disc golf, adaptive disc golf, is that, I mean, no offense to everybody that comes to my regular clinics, but I have a pretty standardized process. I repeat the same thing over and over again. Adaptive disc golf, every single individual it's a dance between you and that person to figure out what they can do and how you can help them achieve it. Don't be afraid. This is one big one. Don't be afraid to ask direct questions about what they're capable of. Like, don't tiptoe around it and, you know, anyone, but especially kids with physical disabilities, they're tougher than us. They've been through more than we've been through. Okay, they can handle a direct question such as, how long have you been in that chair? What are you able to do? Like, avoiding these questions because you might, I don't know how to approach it, no one wants that. So just talk to them. They're just humans, and you can ask them questions and they'll give you answers. Okay. When it comes to people with physical disabilities, one of the things I've learned is it's insulting to be softer on them than you would be with any other person, right? I mean, you're probably going to be softer with kids than adults anyways, so that can apply. But like, don't tiptoe around things. I mean, you want to be the most condescending, awful thing you can do is every time the person in the wheelchair throws a shot, go, yeah, that was awesome. No, if they throw a bad shot, go, that was a bad shot. You could do better. No differently than you would say to anybody else. But just be real with them, and they're going to respect you for it, I promise. Like, you know, by the way, that includes no pity. Okay, nobody wants pity, them included, right? There's no, aw. Oh, you can't throw sidearms? Aw. Like, no. Like, leave that at home. Always keep score. Okay, so with developmental, it's sometimes golf is about keeping score. So if you're playing with anyone with a physical disability, keeping score and quantifying absolutely is something that you should do. If you're not doing that, you are not playing the game of golf. All right, now, how about running an event? Okay, because I've done, again, 287, or was it 288? I have to check, but events. And here's how you're going to do it. Contact an organization, ask them when they have free time, schedule a time, put it in your calendar. Or announce on your social media page you're going to be teaching this class, put a time on the events page, and then contact maybe organizations to do it. Do not, under any circumstance, wait until you know what you're doing before scheduling the event, because you are never going to know what you're doing. All right, if you're waiting to let me learn more about this first, or let me do more research on this subject first, or let me get more familiar, or let me ask more questions, you ain't never doing the event if you do that. The most effective way to do this is just to schedule the event, and now you go, now I better figure out what I'm going to do, because the event's happening and you're not going to cancel. Like, please don't cancel if you scheduled an event people are looking forward to. Now, the biggest fears people have about running these events is they're going to either not know what they're doing or they're not going to do a good job. Those are the two biggest things people are afraid of. And I'm going to alleviate both of those fears right now. You don't know what you're doing, and you're not going to do a good job. Probably not the answer you were thinking I was going to say. Why would you do a good job? You've never done it before. How would you know what you're doing? You've never done it before. All right. It's the fear of not knowing what happens if those things happen. Accept the fact that you don't know what you're doing. You know who's going to care that you don't know what you're doing or that you didn't do a good job? You. You're the only one that's going to give a crap. Parents don't care. They're just happy that you're doing it. The kids or the adults are going to have fun. They're just happy you're doing it. The teachers don't care. They're just happy that you're doing it. So plan on not doing a good job. Who cares? If you have groups, I would say more than about 4 or 5 people, you're going to want help. Now, that could be club members or other friends that want to help. If you have a group coming out, then definitely enlist the help of the teachers. You know, go ahead and bring them, get them involved as well. Anywhere from 4 to 5 people per teacher is about the maximum you can do. If you have a group of more than 10 people, break it into 2 groups. I mean, having 20 people all playing the same hole is going to be very slow. But the most important thing, the lesson to take from all this, is just do it. Like, it's so much fun. You guys, you can't even imagine, like, the joy that you get, the smiles on the faces. Like, and by the way, you'll feel good about yourself. It's okay to feel good about yourself. Go do good things, feel good about yourself. Ain't nothing wrong with it. If that means that good feeling makes you do good things, then do those good things. Last 2 things. Number 1, a reminder to go to scottstokely.net/Discord to join the Discord server to talk about these things. And second, if you have any questions about anything specific to this, me or someone on the Discord server is happy to help. Just jump in there and join the conversation. I hope this helps, and go do it. Send me pictures so I can post on my Blue Power page. All right, thanks everyone.